Frosty fingers grasped my briefcase, crawling with Polaroids and ancient symbols etched into its cracked leather. The cold seeped through my knuckles, sharp as broken glass. Fun blink. Rotting lilies choke my throat, sickly sweet, wet, like grave soil. The cat's fossilized body shifts on the workshop floor, stone grinding against stone. Foofy clack, clack, clack. Typewriter syncs with my heartbeat. Each key press, a gasp, the phone rings. My voice, cold as the ice outside, rasps. They're coming for the fabric. Chew blink. Lilies, fui blink, always lilies. I kick a broken toy. A doll's head. Glass eyes, staring blankly. Plastic shatters with a sharp shink-eye like wet parchment tearing. SSI fog whispers my wife's name. Hussa gasping. What do you want, Marcus? The needle's rusted tip glints. Fu grind. I drop it. Fu clack. Fu clack. The fabric is wrong. The workshop reeks of dust and forgotten things. Muddy trench-brown wallpaper peels like dried blood, revealing the raw, wet wood beneath. Every breath tastes of copper and decay. The cat's fossilized limbs cold, heavy stone shift with a dry rasp as it moves toward me. Its eyes, 2 chips of obsidian, fix on the needle I dropped. Clack, clack! The typewriter's rhythm tightens, matching my ragged breaths. Foin blink, for lilies, the smell floods my sinuses, thick and suffocating. I squeeze my eyes shut, but the lilies are still there, rotting, clinging to my tongue. Blink, blink. Always lilies. The fog outside the workshop's grimy window takes shape. It coalesces into my wife's form, her fingers tracing the glass, whispering words I can't hear. The sound is a distorted hiss, like steam escaping a ruptured pipe. Hiss. Ooh, duh. I turn away, but the fog follows me. It smells like her lavender soap, now rotten, fooflink, lilies. The needle lies on the workbench, its tip a dull rust, but now, pulse. A sickly green light emanates from it, matching the fog's unnatural glow. Grind. The gears in the walls groan louder, metallic and slow, like a giant clockwork heart failing. I reach for the needle. My fingers brush its cold metal, and the green pulse intensifies. Hiss. The fog whispers, Marcus. It's my wife's voice, but wrong, like a broken record skipping. 2 blink. Lilies. The smell is worse now, cloying, making my eyes water. I feel the fabric beneath my touch, wet, clinging like damp skin. It's not right. The fabric should be smooth. Footy blink. Lilies. Blink. Word blink. Always lilies. The cat approaches, fossilized body grinding against the floor. It drops a piece of broken machinery, a tiny, intricate gear, onto the bench beside the needle. Clack! The typewriter's rhythm stutters. Blink! Blink! 4 licks. Her lips move silently. Shoof. Deducing bleditis. Geshop. Go for calling back to this abandoned mall workshop. The doll repair place, the government's corrections facility. Blink. The needle's rusted tip begins to pulse with the same sickly green as the fog. Grind! The sound is a wet vibration, like a bone grinding against bone. The cat watches, obsidian eyes reflecting the green light. Clack, clack, plack. The typewriter's final note echoes. Blink! Fusha-fucha-fukish. Fusha-fusha-futosha, the green pulse flares brighter. The fabric on the bench shivers, then tears. Fusha-fusha-fu. The fog whispers, Marcus! Hiss, hiss. I can't breathe. The lilies are in my lungs. Fusha-va-tink. The needle's green pulse throbs. Grind. The cat's fossilized body shifts again. Stone grinding stone. Clack. The fabric is wrong, Fui grind. Always lilies blink. The needle's green pulse flares. Grind. I jam the needle into the main gear. Scream. The sound tore from inside my skull, a visceral shudder that resonated not in my ears, but in the marrow of my bones. It wasn't a sound to be heard, but felt, a violation. Food blink. Rotting lilies. The scent, acrid and sweet, slammed into me. A physical weight pressing down on my chest. I dropped the needle. It sank into the ice-slicked floor, the metal biting into the frost with a faint, grating protest. Clack, clap. The cat's fossilized body shifted. A slow, deliberate grinding of stone against stone that seemed to mock my actions. Stone grinding. The sound of the needle's final scream lingered, a phantom echo against the deeper rhythmic churn of the machinery. Rimblink lilies! The fog outside the grimy workshop window pulsed, a sickly yellow-brown hue reflecting in the obsidian chips that served as the cat's eyes. Gift. The gear felt cold and heavy in my palm, a weight of ages. It was intricately carved, a labyrinth of tiny, interlocking teeth. Each one a miniature monument to a forgotten purpose, her clack. I fitted it into the space where the needle had been, the metal clicking into place with a precise, unsettling certainty. The maul groaned, a deep, resonant vibration that traveled up through the soles of my boots and into my teeth. It wasn't a creak or a complaint. It was a sigh, a settling of ancient burdens, then gasping. The air, thick with the smell of decay and something else, something akin to ozone pressed against my lungs. The trench-brown wallpaper peeling from the walls seemed to writhe in the dim light. Oh dear, blink. The fabric on the workbench shuddered, the damp weave tightening, the texture shifting beneath my fingertips. It felt wrong. Not simply too wrong, but fundamentally impossibly incorrect, as if the very laws of physics were being subtly, agonizingly bent. The green pulse emanating from the needle intensified, bathing the workshop in an unnatural glow that seemed to suck the color from everything else. The cat watched, its stone eyes reflecting the light, unblinking, impassive. Clack, clack. The typewriter's rhythm, once erratic, now beat with a steady, relentless pulse, a mechanical heartbeat echoing my own, footy blink. Always lilies. I could taste the lilies now, a cloying sweetness coating my tongue, a suffocating blanket over my senses. It wasn't a pleasant taste. It was the taste of loss, of decay, of a memory I couldn't quite grasp. We blink. Hooty, always lilies. My fingers traced the cold metallic surface of the gear, feeling the intricate carvings, the precise angles. A memory flickered. A brief, fragmented image of a child's laughter. A woman's hand guiding mine. It vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving behind only a hollow ache. The fog outside thickened, pressing against the grimy window pane, distorting the already warped view of the abandoned mall. The scent of lavender, sickly sweet and corrupted, filled my nostrils. It was my wife's scent, a phantom echo of a life I could no longer access. The gears in the walls groaned louder, a slow, agonizing protest against the repairs, the mending foding train-dined. The sound resonated not just in the workshop, but within my very skull. It was a sound that spoke of immense pressure, of forces beyond my comprehension from blink. Always lilies. I felt a pull, a subtle but undeniable force drawing me inward. It wasn't a physical force. It was something deeper, something that resonated within my bones, within my very being. A sense of inevitability settled over me, a resignation to a fate I couldn't escape. Wimblink. Always lilies. The machinery was healing, knitting itself back together, and I was becoming a part of it. I felt the shift, a subtle alteration in my perception, a blurring of the lines between myself and the cold, metallic world around me. Grind. The cat shifted again, its stone body scraping against the floor. Ficklack. A faint tremor ran through the workshop, a ripple of change spreading outward. The fabric on the workbench tightened, the weave becoming smoother, more uniform, less human. Blink! Rotting lilies flooded my mouth, a cloying sweetness that coated my tongue, a viscous film against my teeth. I kicked at the needle, the rusted point glancing off the ice-slicked floor. A sharp, brittle crack echoed in the workshop, a sound that seemed to vibrate in the marrow of my bones. Plastic shattered, a cascade of tiny fragments scattering across the frost-covered floor. Hiss. The fog outside the grimy window thickened, swirling and coalescing. It wasn't simply fog, it was a viscous opalescent cloud that seemed to writhe with an inner life it formed. Momentarily, the shape of my wife's face. A fleeting image, a phantom echo of a smile I hadn't seen in decades. Swinblink, it shattered, the face dissolving back into the swirling grey. Funblink, always lilies, the cat shifted, a slow, deliberate movement that sent a tremor through the stone floor. A faint, almost imperceptible glow emanated from its fossilized body, a sickly luminescence that pulsed with the rhythm of the machinery. Regift. It tilted its head, the obsidian chips that served as its eyes reflecting the dim light. The air grew heavy, a pressure against my chest that made it difficult to draw breath. The scent of lilies intensified, mingling with the metallic tang of the machinery. I tasted copper, a bitter film coating my tongue. Gasping, the gear in my hand felt cold, a weight of ages pressing against my palm. It was intricately carved, a labyrinth of tiny interlocking teeth, each one a miniature monument to a forgotten purpose. I fitted it into the space where the needle had been, the metal clicking into place with a precise, unsettling certainty. A low groan resonated through the workshop, a deep, guttural vibration that seemed to emanate from the very foundations of the mall. It wasn't a creak or a complaint, it was a sigh, a settling of ancient burdens, grind. The machinery responded, the rhythmic churn of gears accelerating slightly. A tremor ran through the floor, a ripple of change spreading outward. The fabric on the workbench tightened, the damp weave becoming smoother, more uniform, less human. It felt wrong, fundamentally incorrect. As if the laws of physics were being subtly, agonizingly bent. A wave of nausea rolled over me, a physical manifestation of the wrongness. The air smelled of ozone and something else, something akin to wet stone. I tasted the lilies again, a cloying sweetness that threatened to suffocate me. Gasping! The fog outside pressed against the window pane, distorting the warped view of the abandoned mall. It pulsed, a slow, rhythmic expansion and contraction that mirrored the beat of my own heart. The air grew thick, heavy with the weight of unspoken memories. I felt a pull, a subtle but undeniable force drawing me inward. It wasn't a physical force, it was something deeper, something that resonated within my bones, within my very being. A sense of inevitability settled over me, a resignation to a fate I couldn't escape. Verblink, always lilies! The typewriter's mechanical heartbeat intensified, a relentless pulse that echoed my own, thudding plaque. It wasn't just typing, it was typewriting. Words appeared on the page, a stream of consciousness I didn't recognize yet somehow understood. They spoke of purpose, of integration, of becoming. I didn't want to understand. I wanted to scream, but the sound caught in my throat, a strangled gasp lost in the rhythmic churn of the machinery, a gasping. Away the cat shifted again, its stone body scraping against the floor. Clack! A faint tremor ran through the workshop, a ripple of change spreading outward. The fabric on the workbench tightened further, the weave becoming impossibly smooth, impossibly uniform. The air grew colder, the scent of lilies almost overpowering. I felt a tingling sensation in my fingertips, a strange numbness spreading up my arms. Striblink! Then it happened. The fog outside the window coalesced. It wasn't a swirling amorphous mass anymore. It sharpened, solidified. It took form, the shape of my wife's hand reaching. Not a friendly gesture. Not a comforting touch. A grasping hand, pale and translucent, pressing against the glass, as if trying to pull me through. The hand moved, fingers splayed, and I saw the reflection of my own face in the window, distorted and wavering, slowly merging with the image of the hand. The metal scent intensified. A suffocating wave that slammed into me. Gasping. The stone under my palm is warm, or at least not cold. Not the biting chill of the workshop's frozen floor, but something older, something that hums with the slow pulse of buried time. It's not a gear this time, not the kind that fits into the doll's chest with a precision that makes my fingers ache. This is different, smaller, delicate. I turn it over, and the surface is pitted with tiny grooves, like the channels of a riverbed long since dried. The cat, I'd say, body shifts again. A deliberate scrape of fossil against stone, and the air thickens with the scent of crushed mint and something else, something acrid, like the first strike of a match before it catches. My breath fogs in front of me, not from the cold, but from the effort of holding it back. Gasping, the typewriter clacks once, twice, a stuttering heartbeat that syncs with the grinding of the machinery. The doll on the bench doesn't move. It waits. It always waits. I press the gear into the hollow where the needle used to be. The one that never left a wound. The one that still hums in my dreams like a tuning fork left in the dark. The metal fits too easily, as if it's been here all along, as if the doll has been food waiting for this. A low, wet twick-click echoes, not from the gears, but from the doll's chest. No, not a chest, a cavity. A space carved for something that isn't there. The grinding intensifies, a rhythmic churn that vibrates through my teeth. The fabric of the doll's arm tightens. The weave smoothing into something that isn't cloth anymore. Something that glistens like oil on water, something that twin breathes. Gasping. I blink. The lilies flood my mouth again. Thick and rotten, the petals dissolving on my tongue like ash. The cat's stone eyes gleam. Hides the eyes, not mine, not the doll's. But the same sickly green as the fog outside, the same color that pools in the corners of my vision when I press my palms too hard against my eyelids. The typewriter clacks again, faster now, the keys moving without my fingers. Words appear on the page, jagged and uneven, as if written by a hand that doesn't know its own strength. They are fixing the fabric. The words repeat, not in my head but in the air, in the forehead of the gears, in the wet click of the doll's chest. My fingers twitch. I don't want to read it. I don't want to surrender. But the words are already there, carved into my skull. The cat shifts again, and this time it's not just a scrape of stone, it's a gift. A piece of metal, cold but not like the workshop's cold. Like the cold of a grave that's been open too long. I take it. It's not a gear. It's a badge. A logo. A circle divided into 4 quadrants, each filled with a symbol I don't recognize but know I should. The typewriter clacks once, twice, and the words on the page shift. The agency. The agency. The fog outside the window thickens, pressing against the glass like a hand. The cat's stone body tilts, and for the first time I see it, not as a creature, but as a creature. Its ribs are gears. Its spine a coil of rusted wire. Its eyes are the same green as the fog, the same green as the words on the page. Gasping, gasping. The doll's head turns, not a slow creaking movement, but a jerk, a sudden twist of its neck, the sound of dried sinew snapping. Its mouth opens. No teeth, no tongue. Just a hollow, a black hole that sucks in the air, that pulls the scent of lilies, of crushed mint, of crunch something torn else, something that tastes like copper and screams. They're fixing the fabric. It whispers, not with a voice, but with the foy grind of gears, with the foy clickle of keys, with the forgan trick of keys, with the forgedanced glass. The cat's badge glows, not a dull green, but a pulse, a heartbeat, a falling. The fog outside forms a face. My face but wrong, the eyes too wide, the mouth stretched too thin, the skin too smooth, too new. It presses against the glass. The doll's chest cavity thin clickseed. Again, the typewriter clacks. The cat's stone body scrapes against the floor. A slow, deliberate movement. A gift. The badge glows brighter. The fog's face smiles. The doll's head turns toward me. The gears in its chest begin to spin, gasping. I jam the needle into the fabric, scream. A sound like tearing silk and grinding bone. A dissonance that fractures the workshop's silence. Frimblink. The lilies flood my mouth, thick and cloying, a taste of decay and something subtly metallic, like a forgotten coin unearthed from the mud, fod, fee gasping. My lungs seize, fighting for air that feels viscous heavy with the scent of crushed herbs and something wrong. The cat's body, a collection of fossilized stone, shifts with a low, guttural rumble, a sound that vibrates through the floorboards and into the soles of my boots. Stone grinding. The workshop itself seems to groan, the timbers protesting a weight I can't perceive. I kick the needle. A desperate, reflexive action, a futile attempt to sever the connection. It doesn't budge. It's sunk deep, embedded in the unsettling weave of the fabric, a fabric that feels less like cloth and more like stretched skin, taut and yielding. Clack! The sound reverberates, a sharp punctuation to the ongoing symphony of decay. The fabric isn't wrong, not in the way of a tear or a stain. It's wrong in its tuendi essences and in the way it seems to breathe, to pripple with a rhythm that isn't its own. The air thickens, not with fog, but with a pressure, a palpable sense of observation, gasping. I swallow, forcing down the lilies, the metallic tang. The walls seem to press closer, the shadows deepening into a muddy trench brown, swallowing the meager light filtering through the grimy windows. I try to focus on the gears, the intricate clockwork that defines this place, but they blur, the edges softening, as if they're melting into the gloom. I can feel the change happening, a subtle shift in my bones, a tightening of the skin around my eyes. Then blink. More lilies. The scent is overwhelming, suffocating. The fog outside the window isn't swirling, it's coalescing, forming shapes, faces that writhe just beyond my comprehension. They're correcting me. I feel it, a cold, invasive touch that isn't physical, but something deeper, something that reshapes my thoughts, my memories. The cat's stone body, a grotesque parody of feline grace, pivots its head. Its eyes, those sickly green orbs, gleam with an unsettling intelligence. Gift of fund! It's not offered! It's presented, a cold, hard object pressed into my palm. I don't want it! I recoil, but my fingers seem to have a will of their own, closing around the smooth, polished surface. It's not a gear. It's a token, a mark. The typewriter clacks, a relentless mechanical heartbeat. The words on the page shift, blurring, reforming. Fabric adjustment in progress. The phrase repeats, a mantra of violation. I try to block it out, to focus on the solidity of the stone floor beneath my boots, but the words burrow into my skull, a parasitic infestation. My hands tremble. I want to smash the typewriter, to silence the incessant clacking, but I'm rooted to the spot, paralyzed by a dread that transcends fear. The gears in the doll's chest begin to spin, not with the predictable rhythm of clockwork, but with a frantic, erratic pulse. The fabric of my skin feels tight, constricting, as if it's being stretched over a frame that's slowly reshaping itself. Oh, gasping. I can feel the bones in my hands shifting, the subtle rearrangement of muscle and sinew. I try to flex my fingers, but they move with a stiffness, a rigidity that isn't my own. The fog outside the window resolves itself further, the faces becoming clearer, more defined. They're not malicious, not overtly threatening. They're concerned, they're recorrecting something. Correcting me. The pressure intensifies, a crushing weight that threatens to collapse my lungs. I feel a strange detachment, as if I'm watching myself from a distance, observing a puppet undergoing a grotesque transformation. The cat's stone body shatters, not with a crash, but with a slow, deliberate fracturing, the pieces falling away like dried leaves. Beneath the stone, something else is revealed, something metallic, something intricate, something horrifying. A clockwork heart, exposed, beating with a relentless mechanical precision. It isn't organic. It isn't life. It's a mockery of it, gasping. Oh, the scent of lilies intensifies, drowning out everything else. I stumble backward, my hands outstretched, searching for something to hold on to, something to anchor me to reality. But there is nothing, only the grinding gears, the clacking typewriter, and the cold, calculating gaze of the fog outside the window. The cat's stone ribs creaked as I pried them apart with my bare hands, the sound like wet parchment tearing under the press of a thumb. My fingers slipped on the surface slick, not with moisture, but with something older, something that had long since bled its essence into the stone. The scent of it hit me first, not lilies this time, but the sharp, coppery tang of old blood mixed with the acrid bite of burnt sugar. Food rind, the heart emerged in chunks, each piece glistening with a viscous sheen, the color of tarnished brass. Not in any sense I recognized. It was a lattice of gears, half buried in the fossilized flesh, their teeth interlocking like the jaws of some mechanical beast. I gagged. The air in the workshop thickened, not with fog, but with the weight of something watching, something that had been waiting for this moment. My wife's name slithered through the fog outside the window, a whisper unspooling from the mist like thread pulled from a spool. Teeth etched my teeth. The fog coiled, tightening into the shape of her face. Not the woman I knew. The one with the laugh like wind chimes, the one who used to hum while she stitched, but a thing carved from the same muddy brown as the walls, her features too sharp, her mouth stretched into a smile that didn't reach her hollow eyes. She's not here. The thought clawed at my skull. She's not real, but the fog didn't care. It pressed closer to the glass, her fingers, if they could be called fingers, tapping against the pane in a rhythm that mimicked the clack of the typewriter. "You're the error," the fog mouthed, though no sound came. The words formed in my mind, a parasitic thought, burrowing into the spaces between my own. I stomped on the heart. The gears shattered under my boot, scattering like broken teeth across the floor. Fine-trine. The sound was wet, final. The typewriter stuttered, its keys hammering out a new message. Fudito fantotor. You are the error. The letters bled across the page, ink pooling like spilled oil, the words shifting, rearranging themselves into something worse. Blink. The lilies flooded my mouth again, their petals dissolving on my tongue into something gritty, something that tasted of ash and the back of a rusted nail. I spat, but the taste clung. The cat's hand still fossilized, still stone reformed itself from the fragments, the fingers clicking together like the gears it had once housed. Gift. It pressed something smooth and cold into my palm, a gear, not the kind you'd find in a clock, but something larger, something that fit the hollows of my bones. My fingers curled around it instinctively, the weight of it wrong, too heavy to right. The fog outside the window pulsed, my wife's face twisting into a rictus of something between grief and fury. "You don't get to break it," she whispered, though her lips didn't move. The cat's stone body shuddered, the remaining fragments of its heart grinding together in a slow, deliberate rhythm. I could hear it, the sound of something reassembling itself, piece by piece from the wreckage. The gears in my palm began to hum, a low resonant vibration that travelled up my arm and into my chest. My ribs ached, not from the blow but from the pressure of something shifting inside me, something that didn't belong. The fog pressed harder against the glass, my wife's face pressing into the pain until it flattened, until the shape of her became just another smear of muddy brown, just another part of the workshop's eternal hunger. I didn't scream. I didn't have the breath for it. The typewriter clacked on, the words repeating until they became a mantra, until they became me. The cat's hand closed around the gear in my palm, its fingers wrapping around mine with a strength that wasn't stone, that wasn't flesh. The fog outside the window resolved into 1,000 faces. Elspeth, my father, the girl I'd been before this place. Before the gears, before the lilies, they all watched, they all waited. And the workshop groaned, the timbers shifting, the walls breathing, the air thick with the scent of something about to begin. The stone creaked again. Not the slow groan of settling, but the deliberate fouchifty of something unnatural realigning itself. My fingers still trembled from the weight of the gear, the way it had fitted into my palm like a missing piece, like a part of me that had been waiting. The cat's body was reforming in front of me, the cracks in its fossilized hide knitting themselves back together with a sound like wet kindling snapping underfoot. The air thickened, not with smoke or mist, but with the scent of something fine-rotting in reverse, petals uncurling, wood unburning, flesh unpeeling from bone, flined. The gears in its chest stuttered, not yet whole but close. The cat's head turned toward me, its sockets empty, but the 40 shape of its gaze was there, a pressure that made my skull ache. "Fix the fabric," it said, but its voice wasn't a rasp this time. It was the sound of a rusted hinge opening, of a door swinging on dry wood, of a typewriter key struck too hard too many times. The words so dripped from its mouth, not as sound, but as something twin heavier, a weight pressing against my ribs, against the back of my eyes. I gagged. The lilies filled my throat again, their petals dissolving into the grit of old teeth, of sun-bleached bone. I spat, but the taste clung, thick as oil. The cat's paw still stone, still pun wrong, extended toward me, its fingers twitching like the legs of a drowning man. A gift, always a gift, I swallowed. The gear in my palm pulsed, warm now, not with heat, but with the slow, rhythmic thrithrum of something alive. My fingers flexed. The cat's eyes, if they could be called eyes, flickered, not with light, but with the idea of light, the way a candle flickers behind a shutter. The fog outside the window fifficed, a sound like steam escaping a broken pipe, like the breath of something vast and hungry. My wife's face pressed against the glass again, but this time she wasn't smiling. Her mouth was a jagged line, her features stretching, warping into something that wasn't her at all. Just a mask, a shape pressed into the fog by something that remembered her, that wanted Toi to remember her. "You don't get to break it," she whispered, but the words weren't hers. They were the cat's, they were the workshop's. They were the gears inside me turning. I dropped the gear. The sound it made wasn't a clack. It was the sigh of a wound closing, the fuffined closing. The hissay of a blade sheath too late. The fog screamed. Not with sound, but with the forte pressure of it, the way a scream builds in your chest before it tears out. The workshop trembled. The walls, muddy browned, fawn breathing, shuddered. The typewriter hammered out a new message, the keys striking so fast they blurred. The ink bleeding across the page in jagged, uneven lines. "The fabric is you." The words rearranged themselves not with a shift, but with a fawn twist, like a rope being wrung out. My ribs cracked. Not from the outside, but from the inside, from the gears grinding themselves into place, from the needle, always the needle. Whirring now, its sound matching the rhythm of my heartbeat, matching the click of the cat's fingers reforming around the gear. The fog shattered, not like glass. Not like ice. It twined unfolded, peeling back in strips, each layer revealing the muddy brown of the walls, of the floor, of the hunger in this place. My wife's face wasn't there anymore. Neither was my father's, neither was the girl I'd been before this workshop, before the gears, before the lilies. Just the cat. Just the workshop. Just the sound of the needle, now a drill, now a saw, now the saw teeth of 1,000 teeth gnashing themselves into place. I gasped. The lilies filled my mouth again, their petals dissolving into the taste of copper, of old blood of the back of a rusted hinge. I spat. The taste was still there, the gears in my chest inhumed. The cat's hand now whole, now foot-wrong closed around the gear in my palm. Its fingers wrapped around mine, not with strength, but with the certainty of something that had always been there, that had always been Schwimby. The needle's sound matched my heartbeat now. Not a rhythm, not a pulse of a match. I was the wound. I stand before the cat's fossilized body, its stone form still humming with an otherworldly energy. Blink! Rotting lilies fill my nostrils again, their decaying perfume clinging to the back of my throat like a physical weight. The fog outside the window thickens, churns, then coalesces into something familiar. You're late, it whispers, not with breath or voice, but as an impression against my mind's eye, each word a jagged shard pressing itself into my skull. I gasp. The smell of lilies intensifies, their petals dissolving into the taste of rusted metal on my tongue. The mirror catches my gaze. My reflection not quite matching up with reality, like a painting done by someone who has seen you but doesn't truly know your face. My dead wife stands beside me in the glass, her eyes hollow pits staring right through me. I reach out to touch her image, she reaches back, but instead of skin, my fingers meet cold metal. I stagger away from the mirror, my heart pounding in my chest like a blacksmith's hammer against an anvil. The cat's stone body shatters suddenly. Clack, 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 each piece, clicking together with mechanical precision before reforming into something new, a key long and slender as bone, its teeth serrated like the mouth of some ancient beast. I take it, the gift always a gift in my trembling hand. The metal is cold against my skin, but not unyielding. It is soft somehow, pliant under my touch. It feels alive. I gasp again, gasp, click, the sound echoing through the workshop like typewriter keys striking too hard. The key melts in my palm, not with heat or warmth, but as if gravity itself has been twisted into something unnatural, pulling it downward faster than should be possible. It pools at my feet, then begins to change shape again. Ice forms where metal once was, growing upward, until it reaches the exact dimensions of a human hand, my dead wife's palm. I stare down at her frozen form beneath mine. Her fingers twitch. They're trying to close around something. But there is nothing left for them to grasp except empty air and regret. My breath comes in short gasps now, each inhale pulling more of the lily's decay into my lungs until I feel like I'm drowning on land. The cat, that traitorous creature, purrs beside me, its stone body vibrating with satisfaction or hunger, or some unknowable emotion that feels far too human. Its tail wraps around my ankle, the weight of it pulling me off balance, and suddenly we're not alone in this room anymore. There is something else here with us. A presence that breathes sinkle-clack gasp through the workshop. Each inhale a metallic grind, each exhale an icy hiss. It pushes against me, not physically, but psychically, pressing down on my chest until I can't breathe or think or even scream properly. All I can do is gasp and click and clack like some broken machine. The mirror shatters. The sound of glass fin shattering into clockwork gears, and suddenly the logo of that government agency stares back at me from every jagged edge, a stylized eye beneath a winged wheel, its iris filled with interlocking gears. It watches me through those fractured pieces, watches and waits, as I struggle to draw breath around this unnatural pressure. The cat's hand, the key in ice reaches out toward the mirror fragments, its fingers close around one shard. It lifts it high above our heads before bringing it crashing down onto my reflection with a plack that echoes through me like thunder. I fall to my knees, gasping for air now, for answers later. But there is no escaping this truth. The fabric is unraveling, and I'm the needle sewing it all back together again. I jam the key, or what remained of it, the icy residue of a key, into the workshop's main door. The tumblers didn't click so much as when yielded, a gritty protesting scrape that resonated through the bone of my hand and up my arm. The door, swollen with damp and neglect, resisted, then finally gave way with a shudder that rattled the glass vials on the shelves within. Clack. The door swung inward, revealing not the cluttered interior of my workshop but a sterile, white-tiled corridor. Blink! The smell of lilies. It wasn't the sweet, cloying perfume of blossoms, but something corrupted. The scent clung to the back of my throat, a metallic tang coating my tongue. My fingers traced the rough stone of the fossilized cat's form, still warm despite its age, and it shifted, the stone plates clicking and grinding against each other, reforming not into a feline shape, but something more angular, more deliberate. Correction, you are the first. The voice didn't reach my ears, not exactly. It pressed against the inside of my skull, a cold, precise pronouncement that bypassed my hearing altogether. Each syllable felt like a tiny, perfectly formed shard of ice, lodging itself in the hollows of my mind. My breath hitched. A ragged gasp that tasted of the lilies and something else, something akin to burnt sugar. The fabric is wrong, I managed to rasp, the words scraping against my vocal cords. My voice sounded foreign, distant, as if it belonged to someone else entirely. I pressed my palm against the cool tile of the corridor wall, seeking purchase, some grounding in this impossible reality. The stone cat, now a jagged clockwork construct, nudged my hand with its head. It wasn't affection, it was assessment, blink. The scent of lilies intensified, the decay almost overwhelming. The sterile corridor hadn't changed, but the reflection within the polished steel door at the corridor's end had. It wasn't a reflection of the corridor, but of an office, all harsh angles and gleaming metal. And within that office, superimposed over the image of desks and monitors, was my own face. I stared, paralyzed, at the distorted image. It wasn't a perfect mirroring. The features were subtly wrong form, the set of the jaw, the arch of the brow. It was as if someone had attempted to recreate me from memory, but had failed, leaving behind a caricature, a grotesque imitation. The stone cat's body clicked, a rapid series of clack-clack sounds, and then impossibly it began to type. Not with paws, but with a newly formed appendage, a slender metallic finger extending from its stone body. It was using the wall as a typewriter, striking the stone with a rhythmic precision. Clack, clack, clack. Each impact sent a tremor through the workshop, the vibrations echoing in my chest. Welcome to the fabric. The letters appeared as if carved into the stone, glowing with a faint internal luminescence. The air throbbed with a low frequency, a hum that resonated deep within my bones. I am the error. The realization crashed over me. Not as a revelation, but as a confirmation of a dread I'd carried for decades. I hadn't been hunting ghosts. I was one, a glitch, an anomaly. Something that didn't belong. Another, blink, and the scent of lilies filled my lungs, choking me. The office in the reflection sharpened, the image becoming clearer. I could see the details now vivid. The rows of identical desks, the blank screens, the faces of the occupants, all turned towards the mirrored surface, their expressions devoid of emotion. The cat's clockwork hand, still clacking against the stone wall, finished its message. It reached toward the reflective surface, its metallic fingers closing around a shard of broken glass, lifting it high above our heads before bringing it down onto my reflected image with a clack that echoed through me, fracturing the mirrored surface into 1,000 pieces. The logo of the agency, the stylized eye beneath a winged wheel, was now visible through the fractured steel. The iris filled with interlocking gears watched me. I fell to my knees, the cold tile biting into my skin. It wasn't the physical impact of the fall that stole my breath, but the psychic blow of the shattered reflection. It wasn't just an image that had broken, but a part of me. I gasped, lungs burning, the lilies choking my airways. The stone cat settled beside me, its weight surprisingly heavy. It was no longer my companion, but my warden, my jailer. The pieces of the mirror reflecting the agency's logo seemed to multiply, filling the corridor, the workshop. My vision, the gears within the iris spun faster. The scent of lilies was all-consuming. And in the fractured reflections I saw not my own face, but the face of a machine. His surface, it's not glass, but something slick and cold, smelling of rotting lilies and iron filings. Blink. The scent floods my throat, cloying and metallic, like copper pennies left in rain. The stone cat, its body now a jagged clockwork machine of rusted stone and grinding gears, clacked against the tile. The clack, clack, clack. Each impact sent a tremor up my arm, resonating in my molars, fixed. The sound pulsed through my bones, not words but a vibration in the air. I gasp, the lilies choking my breath. No, I scream, but the sound is swallowed by the fog. Flack. The needle in my hand, its rusted metal biting into my palm, grinds against the stone, a high-pitched shriek like wet parchment tearing. Blink. Rotting lilies. The fog, thick as muddy trench brown, hissed as it coiled around my ankles, icy and heavy. Blink. It wasn't fog. It was the machine's breath, damp and sour. I tried to drop the needle, but it was stuck, embedded in my skin, the metal sinking deeper with every gasp. Plack! The stone cat clacked again, a rapid staccato against the wall. They're fixing you, the fog whispered, layered with the sound of grinding gears. Vim blink. Always lilies. The scent overwhelmed me, metallic and sweet, like burnt sugar and decay. I fell to my knees, the tile rough and cold beneath my palms. The fog pressed against my skin, smelling of wet earth and old blood. Blink, rotting lilies! The needle ground in my hand, a sound like bones snapping. Clack! I felt the needle's edge, the permanent scar it left, the rust tasting like blood on my tongue. Blink. The fog hissed louder, 1,000 needles scraping stone, as it flowed over my chest. Wound, it whispered, plink. Hufaki, hutafiki, hutaclack. I am the wound. The fog tightened, the lilies filling my lungs, the scent of rotting lilies the only thing left. The clink. The needle stayed embedded, the grind the only sound in the world. Blink. Always lilies. Clack.